Hey guys, for those of you that subscribe to the channel, you'll probably know that I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. You haven't seen any videos from me in quite some time. Had a couple of additions to the family, but got a little free time and glad to be back, and that means a lot of new gear to review, so I'm excited to get to show you guys some stuff. Today we're going to do a review of my most recent project gun. This is my Springfield XDS 45 ACP. I've been carrying this gun for a little while now and had enough time to shoot it and have got a lot to say about it. Those of you that are familiar with the pistol can already tell there's a couple of mods done here that we'll talk about too. Before we get started, we'll give a quick rundown of the factory specs of the XDS 45. It is a 5-round magazine only. So this is a big dilemma for some people. It's something that you're going to have to really think about if you are willing to shed some rounds in order to carry a 45 of this size. You know, there's a lot of different ways this conversation can go depending on who you ask. For me, I like to practice. I like to make sure that I know how to shoot what I'm shooting, and I always carry an extra magazine with me. So for me, it was a good trade-off. I was ready to pick something up with a larger caliber that I could conceal in the hot Texas weather. The weight of this gun also is another thing. It's 21.5 ounces. It's not super light, but it has enough weight to sort of counteract some of the recoil that you would expect would come out of a 45 of this size, which is nice. The barrel is a fully supported V-ramp 3.3 inch barrel with a melanite coating on it. Now obviously you can tell by the end of this gun, and I'll go ahead and show you guys. We'll do a safety check right now. So you can see nothing's in the magazine, nothing's in the gun, and the barrel. Okay, so you can see right off the bat that my barrel does not have that finish on it. That's one of the mods that was done, and we'll get to all of that kind of stuff in a second. It has a dovetail rear sight and a fiber optic front sight, and the gun comes with 2 different colors, red and green. You can put whatever you want. Mine came with red, and I switched out for the green. Also, those 5-round magazines, they're stainless steel, and it comes with 2 of them. At least mine did. The slide is forged steel, and the frame is a black polymer. The overall dimensions of the gun, it's very small, but I'll go ahead and give them to you. The width it's listed as 1 inch. A lot of people have measured it online. It's just a shade thinner than 1 inch. The length is 6.3 inches and the overall height is 4.4 inches. Now, that height depends on whether or not you're using the extended magazine, obviously. So when I carry this gun, I plan on carrying my second magazine as the extended magazine. However, for the time being, I have not gotten my hands on one yet. They seem to be a little hard to find right now, so I'm just carrying the 2 stock ones. But I will carry the backup magazine as the extended. So that's all we'll say about the factory specs. I mean, you can look all this stuff up. There's probably some more details from what I gave you online if you were curious. But I kind of want to give you guys a quick field strip so I can show you how simple this gun is to break down. One of the safety features of this gun is you can't break it down while there's a magazine in it. It's an internal safety that's part of the housing right here that basically just eliminates this piece from being able to rotate while there's a magazine in it. So, loaded or not, you can't take it down without that. Okay, so slide's locked back. You flip this lever up, then you let the slide go forward. And this is a striker fire pistol. You have to pull the trigger, and then now you'll be able to take the slide off. Okay, just make sure we're in a safe direction, and we're practicing good handgun safety at all times. So all you have to do now is just take off the recoil assembly and the barrel, and you're done. Now, speaking of the recoil assembly, one of the things that I really like about this gun is the recoil assembly being all contained. It's just sort of a nice feature. It's not a must, however, I like it. It's a nice plus. So, very simple. Put it back together in the same fashion. You're gonna pull the slide back and lock it. You're gonna bring your lever down, let the slide go home, and you're good to go. I can't remember what the factory spec said on the trigger pull of this gun. It was right around 7 pounds maybe 6.5 pounds if I'm not mistaken, maybe 7. out of the factory. That's another thing that I've done different to this gun, but we'll get to that here in a second. So field strip is pretty easy. Maintenance, you know, it's just like any other semi-auto. You just need to take care of it, keep it clean, especially a little gun like this with a 45 gets dirty real quick. So a lot of people have said online that they have a lot of malfunctions when they run a lot of rounds through it because it gets too dirty. I've gone out and put as much as 150 to 200 rounds per trip through this gun and have not had any malfunctions due to it being dirty. So shooting this gun, the first time I took it out, I was really impressed with the accuracy. At about 30 yards, I was able to hit a target that's probably about, I don't know, the size of a roll of duct tape. We were putting them out there and really taking our time, pulling the trigger slow, and really able to get a good pull, and we were able to hit that distance, which I really like out of a gun this small. Normally it's sort of difficult to be able to do. I also love the ergonomics of this gun. Fits really well in the hand. I've put another grip on here. Again, for those of you familiar with the pistol, you'll know that right off the bat this isn't obviously the way the gun comes stock, but I put this on just for some comfort. But one of the main common problems that people seem to have with this firearm is failure to return to battery. What happens is the slide when there's a round in the chamber, it won't do it without a round in the chamber. When there's a round in the chamber and the slide is back about this far, it won't come back forward. So people that push check their rounds to see if they've got a round in the chamber were arguing that, well, it won't come back. But with the slightest touch on the rear, it comes back into battery. Any holster that this thing is in would do more than that. Plus, if there's not really a need to press check your firearm because there is a loaded chamber indicator here that due to the nature of how it works, the only way this would get pushed up is the round pushing it up. So it's really not necessary. The other thing that people have had issues with is it will not return to battery periodically when firing. Now, this is a problem that I did have the first time I took it out to the range. First time I took it out and shot about 150 to 200 rounds, and I had 3 of those instances. You know, there were a lot of factors that I wasn't sure what was causing the problem at the time. It could have been that dirtiness people were talking about. However, I found out later that that was not the case. It could have been insufficient or improper lubricant, I suppose. It could have been the way I was holding the gun. There's a lot of things that it could have been. I know that a lot of people online have had some concerns about the ejector and how tight it is on the round, and that slows it down. So I did have these problems in the beginning. However, I am 100% rock and roll with this gun without any malfunctions at this point. So I'll tell you what I did to fix this, because there's a lot of people out there that have this problem. First of all, one of the main things that I mentioned a second ago that I saw online was the comments about the extractor. Now I'm going to strip this gun down again real quick. I want to show you guys something. Push that aside for a sec. Okay, so the extractor claw, let's see if I can look through here. You can see it right there. It's this little hook right there, right above my fingernail, that grabs onto the round. You can really see it from this angle. You can see the little hook coming downward right there. It grabs onto the back of the casing. There is a very tight tolerance here. And a lot of people, the mod that they did was they took the extractor spring out. It's right in here, and there's a plug, a green plastic plug that stops the spring from condensing past a certain point. What people have done, if they've taken the plug out and put the spring back in, and then it makes the ejector move a little bit more freely, and they said that this fixed their problem. The issue that I have with that is that equally, there are a number of people online that did this and then switched it back because they had ejection problems, where the rounds were not ejecting properly, they weren't ejecting, they were all over the place, it was too weak. For me, I wanted to find out if there's a different solution. So the first thing I did If you look inside, let's see if I can get this to zoom in some. Focus. Okay, now, if you look at this little tooth right there on the ejector, I don't know what that's called, whatever that is. It's polished right now. You can see it's the same color as this polished face right here. It didn't come that way. It came with the same melanite finish coating on it that everything else has. I polished that. I polished it to this finish, and I also polished just underneath the hook under here, right in there along this ridge. I didn't take any metal off, I just took the finish off. So such a tiny amount of more space is available now in this particular pistol to the casing. That's one mod that I did to try. Now I have no answer for you guys as far as what the main fix was, because I did a few different things, and all of them together fixed the problem. And I'll get to the rest of them right now too. Another thing that I did that was, I think, a huge impact on the way this gun operated, because I could feel a difference. Before I took it out the second time, I completely stripped down the gun, and I used frog lube for the whole thing. Now, a lot of people have been talking about this magic frog juice and all this, you know, sort of hoopla about whether it works, doesn't work, and there's a lot of people that are skeptical. You know what? I'm here to tell you that it does, and it's not because I put it on this gun and now this gun works that I say that. I've actually been using frog lube on my AR-15 for quite some time now. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, I just have never used it on my pistols. I don't really know why, because I love the product and how it works with the AR system. You would think it would translate over fine, and I really have no idea. So I cleaned this thing and completely stripped off all of the lubricant that was on it previously, which was some CLP. It was, I used some brake free. I used a few different things. I used to. So completely stripped it out and used the frog lube wax. And I put a little bit of the liquid on a couple of parts that need some extra lubrication, the rails and things like that. You completely wipe off the frog lube before you put the gun back together, so there's no excess lubricant. Those two things made the world of difference for this gun, and I haven't had an issue since. However, there was one other thing that I did that I wanted to share with you guys, because I'm a relatively seasoned shooter. I've been shooting for a long time, and I've never had an issue with managing recoil with any pistol or rifle, for that matter, that I've ever owned. Now, with that being said, I watched a video on YouTube from Gun Talk Media called Controlling Recoil, featuring Rob Latham. Now, if you're not familiar with Rob Latham, he is a fantastic shooter, first and foremost. He's a professional shooter. He shoots a lot of Springfield, and he was a big part of the release of this gun when it first came out a few years back at a SHOT Show event. And he talks about, in this video, how to manage a little gun like this, and he does an exercise that will blow your mind. If you can do the exercise and have someone go through it with you to help you do it, you'll be amazed. What he basically did was had someone hold the pistol, and then with no rounds in the chamber, no magazine, and he racks the slide. But he does it really slow, and it almost pushed this guy off of his feet because he wasn't anticipating the amount of force that comes back at you. And you know, the gentleman had to readjust his stance and get himself in a forward position that he didn't move when the slide came back. I originally thought, oh, okay, well, this guy just doesn't know how to shoot. Until I had someone do it to me, and I was amazed at how much more forward pressure I need to put on the firearm. When I took it out the second time, after readjusting my stance, not my grip so much, just the stance, it was probably 3 times quicker to get back on target, is what it felt like. And the recoil felt very much forward and back as compared to before, where it did have some muzzle rise to an extent that I wasn't very happy with it. So even you guys are out there that are seasoned shooters, please go check out that video and have someone rack your slide like that, and you'll get better details in the video. You'll be amazed at how it'll help you out. Anyhow, so those three things combined, haven't had an issue since. So just some food for thought for you guys that are out there that are concerned about your XDS or having problems. Now, let's put this thing back together. Actually, we'll leave it apart for a second so I can talk about mods. Okay, so let's talk about mods. For those of you that are not familiar with the firearm, all of the writing it's black. It's just the same. It's the same finish. It's just etched out and before it's coated. So it's not filled in. So this is a color fill job that I did. There's a lot of different methods on YouTube you can check out on how to do it. I did mine with white fingernail polish. I don't have a video of me doing it, so I can't put it up, but basically you just clean it really well, alcohol, the whole nine, and then you paint over it. Then you use nail polish remover, the non-acetone version, extremely important so you don't ruin your slide finish. The non-acetone version to rub it off gently, and then you're left with the recesses filled with the fingernail polish. You can see, let's see if I can get this to focus close up. Come on, there you go. Look at the detail. It's pretty incredible how well that came out. I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you guys. Another thing I did, it's not really a mod, but I did change out for the green fiber optic. I mean, we're indoors when there's just a lamp, so you're not really gonna be able to tell here. But for me, I pick it up a lot better. The next thing that I did was on the frame. I did some work. We talked about the extractor that I did that part, polished that up. In the frame, I did a trigger job. One of the things that I was not too wild about when I got the pistol was the trigger. It's no secret that people out there have this sort of beef with Springfield about what happened to the trigger after the recall. And you can tell if your XDS is post-recall because there's a little roll pin right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little roll pin right there above my finger. If you have that roll pin in there, then it is post-recall. But the trigger was sort of spongy, and the pull was a little bit heavier. And currently there's not much you can do with it that's out there for the XDS, except Powder River Precision has a spring kit for 15 to 18 bucks that is the best $15 to $18 I've ever spent on a firearm anytime I've been shooting. Now, the caveat to that is that you have to feel comfortable smithing this thing out on yourself. You have to take it completely apart and be able to put it completely back together and have it function properly. If you're not confident in that, your gunsmith locally can take care of that for you without a problem. I just can't attest to what that kind of thing would cost because I did it myself. Just do a little research before you commit to it and make sure it's something that you can handle. I build ARs and worked on pistols a lot, and that kind of stuff doesn't really bother me. For me, it wasn't too terribly difficult. There were a few parts during the process that took me a little bit of figuring out, but it wasn't that big a deal. So that's something that you're gonna have to decide. What it did was it replaced the trigger safety spring, it replaced the grip safety spring, it replaced the striker safety spring, it replaced all the springs in the dang thing. It was pretty intense, the amount of stuff that got changed for this trigger job. I was kind of surprised that certain things had to be changed in order to affect the trigger so much, but it does, it really does. And once I got it all done, the trigger pull was lightened by, and I don't have a gauge, but for me it felt like 2 pounds lighter, probably. This thing, I think, is probably running around 5 pounds right now, give or take. The website shows that this trigger job will move it from 4.5 to 5.5 range once you put it in. So I feel like this one's probably right in the middle of that. But aside from just lightening the pull, it cleaned up the pool very much so that you don't have that squishy feeling. It felt before as if there was like a sponge wedged in there something, or somewhere. And it's just, you know, sort of weird, and you know, it's kind of hard to describe. For those of you that have had a gun that feels like that, you kind of know what I'm talking about. It's completely cleaned up now to where the take-up is completely smooth, and there's no sort of weird resistance that gives you that spongy feeling. 10,000 times better. I'm a lot more accurate now with the pool. It's just a great mod. Everybody should go do it. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are the grips. The gun comes with this sort of checkering on the front and back that's pretty aggressive. The problem that I had with it was that it's a very small gun, first of all. And I don't have large hands. I have medium-sized glove hands. But even for me, I kind of wanted a tiny little bit more to hold on to. The second thing is that the checkering is very large. So it's sort of like something to grab onto with your fingers. But when my hands got a little sweaty, it was a little slick. It wasn't like really small fine checkering that gives you this sort of sandpapery type grip. You know, like I said, it's very large, and to be quite honest, after you shoot a long time at the range, it was eating in my hand just a little bit. So what I did was order these grips. These are from Powder River Precision. It is a textured rubberized laser cut grip that you put on, just stick it on yourself. I've shot it quite a bit with this grip on it and have not had any issues with it peeling up or coming up in any areas. Let's get a good close look at the texturing on that so you can see. It's definitely grippy, but it's not overly sort of sticky. I like grips that definitely feel like they have a nice grippy texture, but if it has like a stickiness sort of a feel to it, I don't like it. I also am not a fan of the sandpaper grips for concealed carry. I'm just not. I don't want that rubbing up against my skin. So this is a great option for me. Powder River Precision does do the sandpaper ones if you like that. You can see it has the slot cutouts in the front. It's got some in the back as well. And then the thumb groove, this did not come with it, but there's plenty of excess when you get this that you can trim out your own pieces. So I covered the thumb groove on both sides. I also put a strip along the base, get to focus, of the magazines. Just a little bit. So those are two things that I really enjoyed about this as far as mods go. So that's all for the frame. Now, you did see the barrel. It does not have the Melanite finish. It is completely polished off. And I'm no professional. However, I wanted to get some sort of a mirror-like finish, and you know, it, in my opinion, worked out pretty good. You can see it in there. Now, it's not polished completely like a mirror. However, for me, this is plenty good. This is something you can definitely do at home for very cheap. What I did was I soaked the barrel in white vinegar after plugging the ends for 4 hours. I took the barrel out and I scrubbed it with a green scrubby. Take some of the melanite off, as much as I could get. After that, I took Mother's chrome and aluminum, I think it is. It's a polish that's in the wheel section at like Walmart and stuff. It's really cheap. Just a little can of it. And I dabbed a little bit on the corners and just started scrubbing. You know, I tried to make sure that I wasn't scrubbing so hard that I was, man, I don't even know if you could, but leaving sort of marks in the metal. The next thing that I did after that was I took a Dremel and I took the felt, the really soft felt wheels, not the cotton ones because that's too soft to do anything. The felt wheels, and I put a little of the compound on, and then I would Dremel back and forth, and you know, just making sure to keep a nice line going. And I did it all on the barrel, and the process didn't take too long. I mean, it was a few hours, but you know, done myself, and this job can get kind of expensive to pay someone else to do it. Plus, I just kind of like to DIY this stuff. I like to work on my guns myself as much as I can. So I did that. The second thing I did was with the sorry about that, was with the guide rod assembly, or the recoil spring assembly, excuse me. The problem that I had with this was, as most of you guys probably already know, you cannot get something wet with vinegar and then not wash it and dry it off without it rusting. The problem was that I dropped this whole thing inside and then thought I would be able to wash it out considerably and let it dry. I was not able to get all the vinegar out of inside of here. So what would happen is, as the action would happen a few times, it would bring rust out and bring rust out and bring rust out, to the point where it just seemed to never stop coming. And I was a little bit concerned with the long-term effect on the recoil spring. Or not just the spring, the whole thing. It just bugs me. I keep my guns pretty clean, and you know, it may not bother some people, but it bugged me. So I searched everywhere on the internet to get a new one, and it is impossible to find one of these freaking things unless you call Springfield directly. For 29 bucks, I got a brand new one from Springfield, and it was here in 2.5 days. So I'm pretty impressed with that. Now, you can see the color difference. All that I did was this one got soaked. This one I didn't do any of that stuff to. So you can see the finish still on here. Instead, and I'll go ahead and show you guys in the slide, the whole reason I did this is because I wanted that stainless button underneath the barrel. But I didn't need to do the whole thing. So on this one, I just took that same Dremel tool with the mother's compound and I just polished the button on the end. So it's the same look without having those gnarly effects on the inside. I was really impressed with Springfield. I did not think that they were gonna, do that. I didn't know it was gonna be that cheap. So there you have it. Next time you're looking for Springfield parts, might not be a bad idea to call them up directly, just to see. Now, that's $29 before tax and shit, but that's what the part costs. So let's put this thing back together real quick. I think that's all the mods, guys. I didn't really do too much besides that. The trigger job was sort of an undertaking, but totally worth it. Totally worth it. Polishing up some parts and some grips and change the front sight to the other color, but I mean, it's not really a mod. Oh, I have one more mod to show you guys that I forgot to show you that is super cool. NDZ Designs is a company that I went through to have my ejection port laser engraved for my AR-15. They had, they can basically put anything you want on it. They do some stuff for the XDS. They do magazine base plates, which I obviously do not have. But the other thing they do have that I thought was really cool that I got is a rear plate for the slide with the Punisher. Let's see if we can get to focus. How wicked is that? Now, they have a lot of different things you can get. I thought that was cool. However, you can get anything. They've got the Don't Tread on Me. They've got, flags. I mean, you name it, it's in there. I also really love this company because when I did my ejection port cover on my AR-15, I called them up because I really wanted the Texas flag on part of it. I got 4 different things on it for different parts of it, but I wanted the Texas flag on one of the parts, and they didn't have a Texas flag on their thing online. I called them up. The person who answered the phone was the lead engraver, oddly enough, and he says, no problem, I'll take care of it. 3 days later, I had it in the mail, everything I wanted it to be, and it was done really well. So definitely something you should look into. Wasn't too expensive, it was like 20 bucks for a new part. It's not plastic. It is metal, and it's cut to the specs from Springfield. So there's no function issues. I mean, I got that right at the very beginning, so I've never had an issue with that. But that's it. That's all the mods. Now, another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is a holster option. Now, granted, I don't have very many holsters for this gun yet, but I do have a couple of things. I went and bought the DeSantis pocket holster that says it's to fit this gun. It's done okay for me. I'm not that wild about it. The problem that I have with it is that every now and then when I draw from my pocket, the thing comes out of my pocket. Sometimes it even stays on the gun. Now, I've done a few things to remedy that. I put a sock around my pistol, which is what DeSantis recommends, like a dress sock, and shoved it in the holster and leave it in there overnight. I did that a couple of nights, and it loosened it up enough to where it didn't have as much resistance. The only issue that I ran into was it was really dependent on the type of pants I wear, and that can kind of be said about all pocket pistols. So I don't really fault the pistol or the magazine. Excuse me, not the magazine, the holster for that. There's nothing we can really do about that. So I just have to be conscious about what I'm wearing and if it works. Now, I only bought this to tide me over until my holster comes in. I got my holster from Cardin Holsters, the P51. I'm jazzed about it. Late Boy Scout did a great review of that holster, and he also has a video where he's at Cardin Holsters with Joe Cardin, and he makes it, and you get to see his process and the quality of products that he uses. It was pretty impressive, so jazzed on that. Hope it gets here soon. As far as magazine carriers go, I wasn't really able to find something I was really excited about. I make a lot of my own Kydex holsters. I kind of like to have leather and Kydex, so I buy the leather ones and I make the Kydex ones. So I went ahead and fabricated a magazine holder for the XDS. So it's just a fixed belt clip with a fold-over Kydex magazine carrier with adjustable retention. So, and if that's something you want to get into, great, but you got to really kind of commit to it. There's some tools involved and stuff, but I do my own knife sheaths and all kinds of things. However, I wasn't really able to find one that I really liked, and I was looking for something that had some sort of tactical capabilities that Kydex offers, but that was molded for this magazine, not a universal one that fits magazines X, Y, and Z. So, went ahead and molded my own. Really happy with it, but I wish I had something to show you guys you can go out and buy, because unfortunately I couldn't find anything. That's it for this gun. The only other thing I wanted to give you guys a heads up about is there's some people that complain about the Melonite finish on this gun scratching easily and the ejection port having brass scratches on it. And I want to show you that now. See if I can get to focus right there. Oh, come on. Here, maybe if I do it this way, it would be better. There we go. Okay, you see those brass markings that are in there? There's also a couple of them right here along this ridge, but you can't really see those. But, let's see if I can get even closer. Get it to focus. There you go. Now you can see all those little nicks. The casing sort of bounces off of that when it ejects out. Some people freak out about that. It really doesn't bother me at all. So that's just something to think about. However, the Melonite finish isn't super strong, but this is a carry gun. It's supposed to be put into a roll and it's supposed to be used. And the thing that I have about that is that the treatment that's on the slide and all the parts, this black coating is not the treatment. And maybe I shouldn't be saying the Melonite finish, because the Melonite finish may be what they do to the metal. But the treatment that keeps it rust resistant and gives it to the right hardness and everything is done to the metal. It's not done to this black coating. So some black coating comes off, it's not just going to all of a sudden start rusting. Example being my barrel. And a lot of people have done the barrel mod. I'm not the first one to do that. I'm not the first one to do any of this stuff. Just a combination of things that I liked. So just a couple things to think about. For me, it's not really a big deal. It's completely minor, but to you it might be different. So there you have it. I love this gun. I love being able to conceal a 45 as well as this one, especially in hot weather. I love how accurate it is, and how far I can put rounds down range with a gun this small and still, hit something. So I encourage you guys to explore this option if you're looking for a higher caliber pistol. but still really concealable. I got rid of my Bodyguard 380, which there is also a review on my channel of that gun. I really love that gun. However, it had some characteristics that, you know, sort of made me want to get rid of it. I just had a hard time carrying a 380, just mentally. It felt underpowered to me, and its convenience outweighed that because of how small it was. So I kind of said, you know what, why don't I go out and find a 45 so I can have some bigger firepower and still keep some of that concealability. It's not that small, but it's definitely small. And I already have a 9, so this was kind of the other end of the totem pole for me. So there you have it. I hope you guys liked the review. I will roll in a little bit of footage here at the end at the range, just a few seconds. You know, I can't tell you guys how much I love this gun. It's sort of a hobby gun for me. I wanted to get something that I could work on myself and that I could do a lot of things to. And this was it. A lot of people do it to Glocks. They do their own stippling. I'm sure you could do that to this. I don't know. I haven't tried. But it's definitely one worth looking into also if you are into doing your own work on your firearms. Thanks a lot. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll get back to them as soon as I can. And look forward to more things to come.